Hello. Let's hope this is another episode of Write Once, Read Many. Oops. I need to rename it. On the stream name. Because it's 15.4 and 15.5. Alright. And I'm getting the link out there onto the Discord. Okay. We can see in the... Oh yeah, I keep forgetting the microphone was moved, so that might have all been really muffled because I was pointing my face at where it used to be. Yeah, in the art we can see the travelers talking to Tattletale and Coil all getting drawn out. I guess I'll say the audience participation reminder is 15.4 and 15.5. How would you try to game the system with Brian's new power? Example, the permanent boosts he got from Crawler. Let's move to... Oh, Vale's here. Okay, that's good. I thought no one was going to be here. And I was like, oh, cool. Hi, Val. Well, I guess, Vale says, I somehow forgot today was Saturday, even though I knew it was Saturday. I know how that goes. That happens to me sometimes, too. For the themes of the work, this 2 chapters, I was having like a hard time coming up with a good word for it, but just Taylor's failure of communication. Vale says, I suspect it was a trigger event messing with me. Let me see if I have powers. 2 + 4 × 5 says, am driving. Well, that's fair. That is typically what's happening at this time. Well, cool. We got 2 people listening. So yeah, for themes, I don't really know. Taylor's doing weird scheming both times, so that's a theme of schemes. Also, Vale, now would be the time to effusively compliment the art if that's going to happen, I think. And then there will be another time for the second art. So, let's see here. Alright. Starting off, 15.4. Taylor reminisces about how terribly her and Brian's relationship is going to go, as she tries not to wake him while she's getting up to pee. Tattletale calls while she's in the bathroom, and Taylor replies in text asking what's up. Coil wants to meet with the gang at 11. Tattletale ends the conversation telling Taylor, or calling Taylor and Brian lovebirds, but Taylor doesn't seem to mind. Oh my god. They're like in a relationship now, maybe. Vale says, I love the art every time. This is a time of such... it genuinely makes me weak to see what is seen, or weak to see, or makes my week to see what will get drawn here. Oh my god. I'm having reading troubles. So, Taylor begins making breakfast, thinking that that's the kindest way to wake up Brian, is to the smell of food, and makes 3 servings as she noticed someone had cleaned up the kitchen. I wonder who else lives in this house, while she and Brian were asleep. Aisha ventures down and reminds Taylor that if she screws this up with Brian, she's going to be gaslighting her hardcore. This is literal gaslighting, not that shit that people call gaslighting nowadays. This is in Vic's words, so some of this will be, in shouty parentheses. Oh my word, my dog wants in. So Taylor's like, listen, Aisha, everyone makes mistakes. You're being ignorant if you think that I won't mess up once or twice. And Aisha goes into great detail about how she'll lead Taylor to have a psychological breakdown if she hurts Brian. Just as she is talking about smearing blood on mirrors and ordering large amounts of blood by the gallon, then Brian walks in and asks Aisha what the fuck he is, what she's saying to his girlfriend. Oh my god. Taylor tells him to let it go, and he obeys. Oh my god. These versions of events, as recorded by Victoria. The 3 have an awkward breakfast together, then Aisha goes to shower. Taylor starts to romantically panic, trying to figure out ways to touch Brian or ask him out on a date. But Brian just asks about her plan with Coyle. Taylor has 2 plans, and they're both really bad, which Brian makes sure she knows. Plan A is to do a really good job with Coyle, and Coyle will just let Dinah go. And plan B is emergency contraceptives to fight Coyle and all his people. These literally aren't people, or plans. The emergency contraceptive part is crossed out on the thing, but she couldn't help but write it. These are literally aren't plans. They're just like sticky note ideas, but whatever. During this discussion, Taylor decides to clue Brian into Coyle's true power, which makes her plans look much worse. Brian seems to get overwhelmed when discussing how easily the Traveler's powers are going to rip them to shreds, and with the help of Coyle's power. Yeah, because she reveals to him what Coyle's power is right here, too. And when Taylor prompts them to change topic, Brian puts his arm around her. Aww. Taylor and Brian go to take their showers separately, and Taylor again obsesses over how her relationship with Brian is doomed. She knows that not every moment will be perfect, but she can't help but be disappointed at how unromantic their morning has been. Sad. She thinks that she should take what she can get, and reminds herself of the really nice overnight cuddling. It was really nice. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, I missed something on the chat, I'm sure. Vale says, I, English, will write convoluted assist you, I shall reading. Well, thank you. That's sure gonna help me speak well. At least I didn't mess up that weird sentence you wrote. It's very strange what I will and won't mess up. But let's see here. They arrive at Coil's base after what seemingly was a commute racked with Taylor's anxieties about how to create romance at a time like this. His headquarters is looking much better than the last time, with a cafeteria, bar, computer, lab, and sleeping quarters. There was also an area set up with weapons, ammunition, and explosives, manned with people at the ready to distribute the equipment. Yeah, he's got, like, on-duty quartermasters all the time and stuff. Coil's operation is like a real base, you know. Oh, dog is never content. In and out. So Skitter, Gru, and Imp wait on the upper level for a bit as they're early to the meeting, and Taylor spies a big vault door housing Noelle with Tattletale and the Travelers huddled around. That's what we see here. Judging by body posture, Tattletale is delivering disappointing news. Tattletale, the Travelers, and Coil come up to join Taylor on the second level, and when Taylor asks her to fill her in, then Tattletale shockingly turns her down. I frowned. What was going on there? I wonder. I also wonder. The gangs all sit down in a conference room, and Coil tells them that he's gathered them here to hear the deets on all of their progress in their respective territories before the election in less than a week. And the too long didn't read here is, Trickster has taken care of all the gangs in his area. Actually, Purity and her entire group are still there. 3 stars. Sundancer hasn't taken care of anything as she keeps warning people before burning down their houses. 1 star. Genesis has cleared the gangs out but doesn't have anything set up for operations. 4 stars. Ballistic has taken care of all the gangs in his area. Actually, Parian and her entire group are still there. 3 stars. Tattletale is girl bossing too close to the sun. 4 stars. Gru doesn't know what's going on. 1 star. Imp and Regent have cleared out 75% of their gang members. 3.75 stars. Bitch has nobody left in her territory at all. 2 stars. Taylor has cleared out her entire territory. Fucking goody 2-shoes. -1 star for being a tryhard. 2 + 4 × 5 says, okay, I'm gonna go buy lottery tickets before I clock in. I'll listen to the rest later. See ya! Let's see here. But yeah, Taylor is such a tryhard. Man, she's never gonna get anywhere like this. So during this conversation, Skitter volunteers herself to help Ballistic with dealing with Parian, and he is clearly unhappy about this, as if she doesn't have enough on her plate. Coil also volunteers Skitter to join Trickster and Genesis to visit the mayor and convince him to not condemn the city. And the note here from Vic is, Coil here says Skitter, Imp, and Genesis, but I think that's a typo, because it later says that Taylor is going with the most amoral traveler and the most versatile traveler, and that they're going to fucking kill her. So yes, so my joke explanation, I don't really believe this, but when I was reading this, my joke explanation was that Trickster swapped himself in the text with Imp, and then we forgot about it because of Imp's power, and it just ended up being Trickster anyway. Moving on from that nonsense, the group disperses. Tattletale has good news and bad news for Skitter. The good news is that Coil is truly impressed with her. The bad news is that he's planning to kill her at this thing at the mayor's house. And if Skitter tries to bail, he'll know that Tattletale isn't loyal. Tattletale says there's a 50-50 chance that it was a member of the Undersiders who snitched to Coil about their plan to betray him. And since Gru is standing literally right next to the girls, that means it was Imp, Regent, or Bitch. I mean, from the logic of Victoria. There's other ways of finding out information. And they sort of calibrate, and we get to see how basically nobody has done anything near the level of Taylor in her territory. She's blowing everybody else out of the water. And I mean, she's going on like every mission, and she's probably going to be the team leader of the Undersiders. And Ballistic's all surly about it, you know. That's what we're going to see all next chapter. I can handle her on my own. He's like a low tier anime high school like ruffian, you know, where he's trying to prove himself. Yeah. Oh, Greg's here. It's going good. I was just talking shit about Ballistic being a low tier ruffian. I can't accept help from a girl. Then they'll know I'm weak. Yeah. So, let's see. Was there anything else I wanted to talk about specifically from this chapter? I think there's a lot of good, like, character voice in the way that they describe their own actions and stuff. I don't know. Their territories and whatever. Very, very good chapter in terms of, I really like these middle story, or middle section of the story chapters where there isn't, I guess, as high of stakes as like the Slaughterhouse-9 or an Endbringer or whatever, where it's like lower key, but you know they're talking a lot and thinking a lot. I think this section's really good in general. But moving on to 15.5, and it'll be a decent ways in before I change the art, because it's kind of near the end of the chapter. But so it starts off with Regent using Victor. He's taking full control of his body and stuff, and he's using his power a bit. Tattletale's asking about how it's going, and Regent says, like a Mercedes with an invisible, sticky gear shift. And so apparently everything kind of works with the way that he can use Victor's body, and he can kind of use his power, but he can't control what it's aimed at or anything. So he's having a lot of problems because it's a very non-physical power. I guess even further than like Shatterbird in that direction. Apparently Victor's not cooperating or anything. So Gru steps in and coats him in darkness a bit, and then he starts trying to use Victor's power, and all he's getting is like languages at first, but nobody knows languages, so it must be coming directly from Victor. And then Tattletale has Regent start Victor into like doing martial arts forms, and then Gru starts trying to learn martial arts, and he gets all bummed out, saying that this feels like cheating to him because he used to take pride in like learning all the different martial arts. And then Tattletale's like, but you never have time for this, so what are you complaining about? But I think what he's really complaining about is the fact that like his lifestyle has changed so that he does not, in fact, have that time. Like, the ritual itself was probably important and also reminds him of a better time in his life when he was not being turned into a fridge or whatever. But then, Tattletale's not really taking that into account. She's being more literal and less empathetic, I guess. So moving on from that, Gru kind of has this moment where he gets over it and he says that he's gonna do it anyway because he wants to be more useful to the group, and it's also like it's sad because it's clear that he feels like he's not bringing enough to the group and stuff, and he's like putting more weight on his shoulders. I don't know. It's clear to me. So there's these very sad Gru moments that are just sort of brushed over. And they leave Regent and Gru behind. Skitter starts asking Tattletale about why there's so many soldiers at this point, because she's like, well, he's already defeated the other gangs in the city. Like, the ABB and the Empire 88 are gone now. And he didn't send them to fight the Endbringer or the Nine. And then Tattletale is saying that by keeping them employed, they won't be hired, like, against him. And it's also factors into his larger plan. So it's like, I wonder why she won't fully elucidate things to Skitter right now. So Tattletale wants Skitter to worm her way in with the travelers, and she's able to tell pretty easily that Tattletale wants her to like work on ballistic while they're together. She doesn't have high hopes for this, and as we'll see, she is correct because things go poorly. But let's see here. So Tattletale also brings up during this conversation the like attempt on her life while she goes to the mayor, and she doesn't know the details, but she thinks maybe it was going to be one of the travelers. Like, Skitter's going to suspect Trickster a lot because he is willing to kill people, and so she's very, very untrustworthy of some of them in the next little while, and is always trying to suss out who's trying to assassinate her. Which, why just one? Couldn't everyone be trying to assassinate you? Shouldn't you be more paranoid, Taylor? Yes, they talk about how Coil is considering dropping Gru from the team as well because of his emotional state after being tortured by Bonesaw. And I mean, there's a lot of important stuff they go over just really quickly in this conversation. Tattletale brings up Skitter thinking that she should be the leader, at least in the field. And Skitter says that Tattletale has way more experience. And then she's like, I mean, I did the plans for robbing casinos with no superpowered people, and you fought Mannequin with your body. And she does keep coming up with their craziest plans during the battles. So yeah, she's like, oh, I still don't know. And, she's worried about it because of how Gru might take it, but yeah. And then this other part where Tattletale talks about how Noelle isn't the Traveler's only problem, but does not expand on that either. And then Ballistic's coming too. He's coming down the hallway, so she stops saying any secret information, but he's like, this is a conspiracy. This is the best episode of Next Generation. Conspiracy. And what Tattletale says, well, at first she jokes that they're talking about boys, and then she's like, but literally we are. And then she spills some tea that the Undersiders are thinking about changing their leader from Gru to Skitter. And at first Skitter's like, oh! But then, she realizes momentarily that, obviously she's trying to, kind of do this social ploy. And then, Tattletale says, it was going to get out eventually, and we can trust Ballistic not to tell anybody, wink. And so he kind of sees through this and is like, you're putting me in a bad position where I'm either a snitch or I'm on your side, basically. So more savvy than some would expect. After a little more of that, then Tattletale skips off and they leave for Dolltown. And then and Tattletale had said some stuff about Ballistic being angry about her coming along and why, but I just thought that was kind of a retread of earlier stuff. So they're heading out. He's saying it's his business, it's in his territory, and then he had also been saying why should I care about the future because the world's going to end in 2 years, and then she just throws it back at him why should I care what you think if the world's going to end in 2 years? And he's like, that's different. And then she's basically but why? He doesn't have a good answer. And then let's see here. And then he sort of he doesn't see non-capes as important people. And this is coming from the same guy who in the previous meeting couldn't remember the name of the capes in his territory. So he's neither able to see non-capes nor capes as important enough for his attention. Good job. So Taylor has a funny sort of telling way that she reacts to this. She says, in her own mind, he left an opening for me to target, which is a very funny thing to think in a conversation. And then she just starts throwing shit at him to see how he'll react. She asks about the other travelers and how there's resentment there, and he deflects, saying it's different, And then he's getting suspicious of why she's forcing this conversation, and then she keeps circling back to things he said to justify what she's saying now. Weren't you just debating that coworker thing? And then she says, decide if you really believe it. Let me know, and I'll change my arguments accordingly. So she's just she really is treating the conversation like a fight. She doesn't have a side. She's just waiting around his opinions, poking into his arguments, because he really doesn't have any consistency. But it is really antagonistic to do what she's doing. You know what I mean? Anyway, but she is talking about how she's dealt with some really interesting personalities and lists off basically her whole team. And then she tries to prompt out a reaction at the idea that she is, going to talk to him over the long term to see if maybe he's the one who's going to try and assassinate me. And he doesn't react to what she does. And then you know, she's thinking about him more and how to sort of try and attack his position and divide him off from his group, maybe. But like nothing that she's doing is working, and she starts asking about Trickster, and he does spill some beans about Trickster because he kind of like has to get stuff off his chest about Trickster to a point where he can't not say this, is how I feel. You know, and Skitter flashes back to thinking about Sundancer way back in Arc 5. Well, and I guess other times, being like super reluctant to ever turn on her power, and thinks about how, you know, they had done these bad things, possibly, you know, probably killed a whole pile of people by accident. But, you know, what are you gonna do when you manifest the sun by accident in a new world to try and do a super villain lifestyle to steal enough money to go back to the past? Things are gonna happen. And then, yeah, Ballistic is saying how the others respect Trickster, but he doesn't respect Trickster. That's the difference between him and the other members of the group. And that he sticks with shit. Which is his justification for just sort of coasting and going along with the momentum of what he's already doing. It's pretty clear that this is going like nowhere. Ballistic's talking about how he's going to get groupies, and he doesn't think that... Basically, he doesn't have any form of a human relationship that he wants beyond a surface level, and he thinks Skitter's trying to steal his glory, and so she splits off to try and find Parian, which she's able to do pretty easily. They don't leave the conversation well. Anyway, Ballistic starts kind of like wildfiring into the neighborhood, and then Skitter moves on to the like Parian's group faster than ever to try and sort of get in before the whole neighborhood's knocked down, you know. But then, yes, let's see. She goes in. She's talking about how Dolltown is ugly from the fighting with the Nine. There's, like, tons of battle scars from all kinds of, like, super-powered weirdness. And there were, like, handprints from Menya. And then there were, like, you know, all types. And then she opens a doorway into a ruined building and sees Parian in there. And then she steps into the doorway. As we will see here in the escalating drawing. Skitty, yeah, the new bug type regional variant dropped. It's my favorite Pokemon, bug type Skitty. But yeah, we'll get a nice drawing here of Parian. I like this one a lot. I like all the group scenes from this arc so far that Vic has made. I mean, so far it was like 2 characters in the other ones, but then this time it was like a whole bunch of people, and then like 5 people for this one. But also, that guy's dressed like a mummy, and I can respect that. I'm a big mummy fan, for anyone in the audience who didn't know. I think that, you know, if you want me to like a character design, just make him a mummy. Only she could pick. So, yeah, she moves in. There's a whole bunch of people. At first, Skitter's like, did Parian have capes working for her? But then she's like, no, it was the people who were plastic surgeryed into looking like the Slaughterhouse 9. You know, that whole heinous thing that Bonesaw did to a bunch of people. And then, she, like, Skitter knows somebody is circling around behind her, but she just sort of disregards it. She's like, I cannot be knifed, really, and if they try and club me, it might be a problem, but, like, whatever, I'll deal with it. And she's, like, really, really sure of what's gonna happen, and she starts talking to Parian. You know, she's all like, your friend is not too concerned of negotiating. He's just knocking down buildings. And then she's like, well, I came here to negotiate in secret as a gamble. And then she's like, that seems fishy to me. It seems like a ploy. And then she's like, you'll have to trust me because he's just gonna bust everything. Oh, Vale's gotta go. Gonna listen to the rest later. Bye, Vale. Yeah, then, you know, she's saying, I know there's a person circling around. And then, you know, Parian keeps buying time. It's like, what are you wanting to talk about? And then, Skitter's saying how, you know, basically, Parian got a bad role. Things have all gone really terrible for her and her people. And she just straight up wants Parian to join the Undersiders. And then Parian cuts her off and says no. And then like, immediately, Skitter starts trying to do the hard sell a little bit. Hissing her words, as it says here. Saying that it's the way to guarantee the safety of her people, and then, like, even if she wins today, like, Ballistic and the rest of the Travelers will be back tomorrow, so there's no way to win this. So it really does look pretty bad from the perspective of someone who's not Skitter. It's like, all of the stuff she's saying is true, but it just seems like she's doing sort of a protection racket to force her to join the team. And then, you know, after that happens, after all this persistent pestering behavior from Skitter, very unladylike, then Flechette jumps out, and she, because Skitter thinks it's just a regular person with a knife, Flechette just, like, pierces right through her costume, right into her shoulder. And she's, you know, she got. And Flechette says the classic line, the lady said no. And she's ready to get Skitter if she tries to bug them or whatever. So we're leaving it on a cliffhanger with this one. It's a big shock. Who would have expected Skitter's hubris, a story like this, to involve a character falling to hubris? No one would ever believe it. As for the sort of final chapter thoughts, another good one, a good conversation back and forth. It's, like, funny to see Skitter kind of fail at the whole conversation thing. Like, there are people she can deal with and convince of things, and there are people who she just utterly fails to sway. Greg says, Flechette teaches Skitter an important lesson about consent. Yeah, exactly. She's like, you wouldn't like it if you had these metal spikes forcibly. Anyway, yeah, you can't just hiss demands at these ladies, Skitter. This is terrible. It's like I said on these previous chapters. Taylor, not trustworthy around women. As far as arc stuff, again, good connective chapters. This is a very like this is like a heavy conversational arc. Even when there's fights, like they're just, this is like a talkie fight. Like there was one stab attack, but like, you know, we're just learning a lot. We're seeing people's perspectives. We're seeing how they sort of contrast to each other in very direct terms, and the lies that they tell to themselves, perhaps. Between Ballistic and Skitter, there's got to be tons of lies told to selves. Anyway, I guess I don't have too much to say about that. I just think this section is really compelling. I think that if anyone fell off in arc 10 or 11, I'd really I hope that someday they'd come back to see this and arc 16 and onward, because it's very good. As far as characters, we get a lot of stuff on Gru and Taylor's relationship from Taylor's perspective, and most of it is doom and gloom. She does not see a future for them, and she really wants to, but she just keeps thinking about all the things that are going to go wrong, and like, who can blame her at this point? But then we get like Aisha coming in, and she's like, I don't care what could go wrong. If it goes wrong, it's on you, because I will use the power of my very strong parahuman's power to ruin your life. And hopefully Brian coming into the situation put a bit of a damper on that. Also, I do think that Aisha's giving her more of a hard time than being serious, exactly. The spirit of her words are true, but I think that she is more understanding than she will let on. You know, typical teen stuff. Sometimes teens are wise, even though they do all these unwise things. It's like different kinds of emotional intelligence. Anyway. Then who else do we got? When they go to the meeting, you know, there's like some fun, silly moments, like Rachel talking about how everyone's gone from her territory, and even Coil being slightly flabbergasted at this. Tattletale's having fun with her little operation. Lisa, I should say. The Travelers are not as good as the Undersiders at defeating the people in their territory. Like, they're the ones with all the capes left, basically. And, like, Genesis is probably doing the best out of all of them. Maybe Trickster. They're not very good at this. Or they're not as invested as they say they are. But yeah, they have a lot of criticism for each other on the table. Whereas I would say the Undersiders are more of a team front. Like they're more of a unified team than the Travelers, even just by like what happens only in the meeting in 15.4. It's like pretty clear. So that's good that's woven in well. And like just kind of, it's as subtle or as blatant as it needs to be, but no one like directly comments on it. Well, maybe there's some, but it feels like it's more of just like a thing that happens, and it's the undercurrent of the whole thing. And And then they'll talk about it in 15.5 when they're talking strategy on the conversation with Ballistic. And then Ballistic, kind of a douche. I think he just has like a really self-centered attitude because he's been so alienated from all of his previous life before he was a cape and stuff, and also from his friends. So he kind of is trying to do this very kind of like lonely solitude life where he just kind of does the most basic like villain for money stuff, like attacks people, protection racket stuff, just like doesn't care about the consequences of his actions for just like really short-term gains, and is willing to both justify, oh no, I shouldn't worry about what I do because of the end of the world, but also why are you annoying me right now? How dare you, Skitter, you glory hog. It's a bunch of talking out both sides of his mouth. Ballistic sucks. Luke. And then who else? Parian. We're gonna get a lot more Parian in the next 2 chapters, and same with Flechette in the next chapter. And they get a good introduction here, but it really is brief. Parian is understandably skeptical of Skitter, because it really does seem like she's just like trying to run a pretty obvious scam to get her to join her team, even though she's not. She's shady. Sorry, Skitter, you're shady. As far as like powers knowledge, world building, we don't really gain that much new knowledge. We see some cool little things of like the bandaged up people with different stuff. This cool image we're all looking at. But they don't really do a lot of new powersy stuff. We do learn the state of the city a lot from their little meeting and recounting to Coil. So we know that they've got a pretty tight grip on the city, and there's very little opposition left. Let's see here. Oh, and we know about the mayoral election being so close, and the fact that they're going to do they're going to attack the mayor's house to convince him with threats to tell Washington to advocate to keep Brockton Bay open as a city and to revitalize the city. So yeah, that's kind of all I have for the powers, knowledge, and world building section. No bonus this week, but I have the question: how would you try to game the system with Brian's new power? Example, the permanent boosts from Crawler's power that he actually did get. And then let's see what the thing was written. So Vale said, I'd stack thinker powers. Every thinker I could get access to, I'd get a bit of their power. It seems like the sort of thing that would snowball into something amazing. That would be so funny, especially because he's like especially bad with like any non-physical power. So he'd be like topsy-turvying between all these thinker powers. It might be really bad for his mental state though, but it would be funny from in like a fanficky moment to see him in the room with like 5 thinkers and see what happens. Greg says, picking up a tinker's power short term doesn't seem to work well, but I'd personally want to try picking up a bunch of them at once longer term, which is why I'd try to get in on Toy Box, which Tattletale is tracking down Toy Box. Large group of tinkers in a small area. That's a lot of tinker juice pouring in at once. And if I can stay with the Enclave for a while, I'll have access to a lot of the same powers for an extended time. Yeah. Might be pretty crazy. I think those are really good answers. I would say, Dauntless is gone. I would try and see if he can send Darkness into the time bubble and get at Dauntless. Because if he could, like, maybe use some really weak version of Dauntless's power on his sweet leather jacket. Or his motorcycle helmet. But, who else? I guess I can't think of that many because a lot of the, like, a lot of the long-term powers, it's like you'd have to be around them for so long. But yeah, I mean, sapping powers that give any permanent boosts. The hard part is finding powers that give permanent boosts. There aren't that many. A lot of powers are really short-lived. But anyway, good answers, everybody. I'm gonna copy paste the one for 15.6. It is, if Taylor had joined the Wards instead of becoming a villain, do you think she would be as hero-pilled as Flechette? Explain your answer. Greg says, I mean, a simple idea is to snag Eidolon for a while. Probably would have to be during an Endbringer fight. But hey. Yeah, the thing is, it drains the user of enough power that, like, it often doesn't seem to be worth, like, having both. Like, sometimes he'll go in for, like, a double attack with Grace or something, or, like, he tries to use some ranged powers, but it often seems to drain somebody to the point where they're just like, hey, stop that. Don't use my power. So, yeah. But I wonder what would happen, because he and Eidolon maybe would have different power sets for how much they could have. And, like, yeah, then the roulette wheel would be spinning faster and faster as far as, like, which powers they could cycle through. Well, I mean, would be stopping more and more times, more like, but you know what I mean. We would get more and more opportunities for power interactions, combinations. And that's what you really want, is power combos. You want things that ping off each other. Almost all the best things are when you have, like, 2 or 3 powers laying a baseline for some really crazy, like, setup. But, anyway. That is pretty much that for this week. I am going to start up ye old outro music, which is the same as the intro music, and read off the links. As we have been using for Arc 15 and we'll use for Arc 16, the song is Monarch by our friend Scarlett, musician as ScarlettXOX. And you can find her at twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. The Discord server can be found in the stream description and channel description. The author of the work being discussed can be found at patreon.com/Wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. And there's also a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. Thanks, and we will talk to you next week.